Talking about Ed Thomas, murdered coach from Appleton Parkersburg. He was the 2005 NFL High School Coach of the Year. That's how much respect he had in the national coaching community. He's got 4 active NFL players out of tiny little Appleton Parkersburg High School, which is crazy.
But he's such a huge part of that community.
Having said that, he was obviously a better person than he was a coach, and he was a hell of a coach. We bring in Scott Unash right now from our own 1600 ESPN Radio. Good morning, Scott.
Good morning, guys.
You've been calling high school games for a very long time. Try to help us put in perspective how much Ed Thomas means to the high school football community before we kind of talk about him as a person a little bit, too.
Well, he was high school football in the state of Iowa, to be quite honest with you. He was one of the founding fathers of the Iowa Football Coaches Association, which is the association that obviously includes all the high school football coaches in the state of Iowa. He was the guy that helped get that organization off the ground, got it going. And so as far as that is concerned, in fact, we talked to Tim Lewis at Kennedy about that yesterday, and they're kind of trying to figure out right now what direction they're going to go, because he was such an integral part of that. But as far as guys coaching in the state of Iowa, there were no more that were respected more than Ed Thomas, and boy, he's going to be missed by everyone.
Mm-hmm. You know, you talk about Norway baseball, and I guess you got to almost talk about AP football in that same way. Having 4 NFL players out of a school that size is probably on that same kind of level where you go, they're just playing way out of their heads to be at the level that they're at.
Oh yeah, I would agree. There are probably about a handful of schools like that in the state of Iowa. You've got Harlan, obviously. You've got Emmetsburg, that's always got a very good football team. And then you've got Appleton Parkersburg. And whether it was Parkersburg or now Appleton Parkersburg, it really didn't matter. Ed Thomas is just one of the better-known coaches, was one of the better-known coaches anyway in the state of Iowa, both on the field and off the field. And I think that's why this is really hitting home for a lot of people, is the fact that just what he did off the field.
Well, that's it. The thread that seems to run through these success stories, whether it's Jim Vanskoy again with baseball in Norway or with Ed Thomas in Parkersburg, is that they were always talking about the other parts of life, and the sports just all fell into place because that foundation they had. But when you talk to all their former players, it's all about the life lessons they got.
Oh yeah, and it's cliche, but he almost cared more about the guys that were not going to go on to play football after their career at Appleton Parkersburg. The guys that were going to not even go to college, maybe just go to the farm, take over for their parents, and work there for the rest of their lives and stay around both Appleton and Parkersburg. And he cared just as much about those young men as he did the Jared DeVrieses and the Aaron Campmans and people like that.
Mm-hmm. Then after the tornado too, which is just so extra weird that was just a little over a year ago, and he kind of led the charge community-wise. It said, let's start with the football field. What was that all about? They call it the Sacred Acre. Can you comment on what that part of it means to that community and why that was the right way to start?
Well, it's kind of twofold there. First of all, you get to a smaller community like that, and Friday nights are important. They're huge. There's nothing like it in the state of Iowa. There's nothing like it in small town Midwest. It's cliche again, but it's like a Norman Rockwell painting, and it's so important to have that high school and the high school activities. And when the tornado came through, I think the perfect guy to lean against for a community, especially Parkersburg, was Ed Thomas, because he sensed, hey, if I go out here, I get out to my football field, start picking it up, tell the folks that it's going to be, we're going to be fine. Mm-hmm. We're going to do this like a football game. I'm going to lead you. you follow me. I'm going to show you the right way to do it, and we're going to go and we're going to lick this. And he went out to the football field, started cleaning it up, did that basically before he cleaned up his own area where his house was, which was destroyed by the tornado.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, it's just kind of a Pied Piper situation. He was just a tremendous leader during those days.
His son is a coach as well, right?
Yeah, basketball coach, very successful one up at Union in LaPorte City, by the name of Aaron Thomas. Of course, he wasn't a football guy. He played football, was a pretty good football player, but he was a basketball player. Played at Drake, and has become a very successful coach up at Union. He's gone to the state tournament a couple times, and he's a chip off the old block, no doubt about it.
Well, he is outside of sports too, because I thought his comments last night. First of all, he was so poised, but you could just see that's exactly the embodiment of the way Coach Ed Thomas was. He was also including, people should keep the family of the suspected killer in mind as well, that it was a troubled person and that they should be praying for them too. I thought, how gracious is that? And that just sounds like Ed Thomas as well. It sounds like something he would have said.
Definitely. And I think that's, without knowing, just speculating. I'm sure they're taking this situation. Hey, what would have Dad done?
Right.
In this situation, and what grace and poise he showed. But that, it really didn't surprise me, because I was thinking, watching that, going, boy, that looks like Ed. I mean, he looks like a very young Ed Thomas. First of all, looks a lot like his dad, that square jaw type of face, but that was just the way his dad would have done it.
It's also worth noting, I think, I thought it was the weight room that he was in yesterday in the morning when it happened. It was a room full of young people. They weren't just football players. This was open to any student that wanted to improve themselves. So, again, he wasn't just about football. He was about young people.
Oh, yeah. And, he was also the athletic director at Appleton Parkersburg. And I remember many times when their volleyball team would be coming down to the U.S. Cellular Center for the state volleyball tournament, and he'd be right there along the volleyball court, pacing back and forth. He was in that match as much as the young ladies were, and he wanted to win that much. But when win or lose, really didn't matter. He was right there, first ones to congratulate him.
Well, when fall rolls around, which, believe it or not, won't be that long from now, it's going to be a weird fall. It's going to be, we're all going to be a lot worse off this particular fall. He's going to be missed in a huge way come Friday nights. Yeah, and
it's going to be very interesting to see how this is going to all pan out. Obviously, and it's you don't even want to think of it in these terms yet. You're thinking about the family and whatnot, but what are they going to do as far as football is concerned? It's too late in the process now to go with a search. I got to think, I'm 99% sure it's going to be one of his assistants, longtime assistants, that takes over, and that might have been what Ed would have wanted anyway after he got out of this. But he was only 58 years old. It seemed like he's been around 37 years, but you would think he'd be in his 60s and maybe approaching 70, but he was only young. 58. Yeah. So it is going to be very, very eerie come fall when AP takes the football field.
Hey, Scott, thank you for sharing your thoughts with us this morning. We really appreciate it.
You bet. You guys have a great day.
Okay, Scott Unash from 1600 ESPN Radio.